Yeah, so I was browsing on Reddit and I came across this thread in the subreddit, and it was basically a thread of someone was asking, what prevent people from using D, right? And there's a lot of this thing about people talking about tools and all those things, but then one thing that caught my attention is to look at the Rust website, because and first thing first, I don't really program in Rust, right? So I'm more of a D guy, and I'm more familiar with D, which is what I use. Uh, Aside Node.js, of course, which I use professionally. But then, it came to my mind to check the Rust website, and I decided to compare it with the D website, and that is what I'll be talking about in this video. So when you go to rustlang.org, this is the Rust website. The topmost part is their value proposition. They say Rust, a language empowering everyone to build reliable and efficient software, right? So, and then the D website, they say D is a general purpose programming language with static typing, system level access. They talk about how it's like C. And so when you look at it too, you realize something. The key difference is Rust, they don't even talk about the language itself, right? And by the D, they are more focused on the technical side of it. But Rust is more human centric, right? The language empowering everyone, right? So if you ask me, I would say the Rust value proposition is quite inviting, especially to new users, right? And they have at the side, a way to get started. So it's quite straightforward, right? And you can see from the Rust website that there's not a lot of content, right? And whereas the D website has so many things up on the window, right? And there are so many things, trying to grab your attention at the same time. And first of all, let's look at the menu, right? You on the Rust website, you have about 7 menus here, and then on the D, you have 6. But then with the D, it also contains sub menus, right? The community, basically a lot of it, and the resources, right? The Rust website, they focus on two things. You then install, you learn how it works. You go to their playground, to try it out online, the tools, and they talk about the governance, right? How the Rust, organizational part is managed, the community, and then their blog, right? When you go to the D website, you find the learn, right, which is more like the what you find on the Rust website. So I will look at the menu, in a minute, but let's go on and look at something. And they talk about the documentation, the downloads, and the community, right? So, but a key difference with the Rust one is they kind of provide you with a way to get started immediately, right? And whereas the D website, they are talking about trying to more like impress you, right? And usually when you go at the side, you can toggle between different examples showing the code. But my thinking is like, if we're a new programmer to D, basically, this symbol here, exclamation mark, it is a way you define make a template call, and the function you see here is an argument to the template, right? And when someone is new, they don't really understand any of these things. So I think it doesn't really make it, unless you are already familiar with D. I guess probably the idea is to showcase what D has, and basically throw all the features that D has, more cryptic code, intelligent, smart, geeky kind of features that D has. They show you all of it, but then if you are starting out, you basically don't understand what is happening here. So I guess what I'm saying is I like the Rust, design approach more. They take you through more like a journey, and when you scroll down, you realize a key difference. And once you scroll down, you realize a key difference between the D approach and the Rust, right? D is a more community-driven project, so they bring, they talk about the foundation. Once you scroll down, and I think it's a nice thing, because Rust has Mozilla, backing it, and other organizations. So, but this is more community centric. So they talk about how you can donate and support it. So I think it's a good thing. Uh, but once you scroll, down to the Rust, they are talking about why Rust, and they talk about the three key, pros of Rust: performance, reliability, and productivity. Whereas the D website, you have to scroll down, here. This is where they talk about it. It's a similar thing, right? But there's too many things, being said here. So, and you most likely are not going to read all of this. It's way too many things, right? I say you break this one into uh, three key points and summarize it in a simple, easy to understand statement like you find it in Rust, right? Uh, Whereas the D website, they basically talk about everything, and you most likely won't understand most of these things unless you are really trying the language and you get to feel it. Scope, RAII, they talk about how it reads fast, and yeah, D code is very clean, right? You don't let these ones, put you off. D code is actually very clean, and I would prefer, even if you want to show examples, you use familiar, easy to understand, examples. Almost with the exception of few, almost all the examples shown contain template code, and which doesn't make much sense if you are coming from a language that has either a different semantic. By the way, very few programming languages have generic support, so it's going to be unfamiliar to a lot of people coming from other languages, unless of course you are an experienced programmer, which of course if you experience, you most likely wouldn't spend much time reading through all this. You want to get your hands on the code, so I say you really focus on making it quite inviting to new users. Yeah, so three keywords. And you do realize the D website, they use the font are quite too small. When I zoom in on it like this, it looks much better and much more easy, accessible. So I say the font size need to be increased. I will get to that in a minute. So let's continue. And they talk about key highlights here. Build it in Rust. They talk about areas. It's more like areas. Rust is good at. Command line. Well, let me read it well. Distinct domains. Yeah, domains where the Rust really excel at: command line, WebAssembly, networking, and embedded programming, which is what Rust really is designed for. If you want to develop general applications and you are using Rust, probably desktop applications, the kind that people, I'm not saying it's technically not possible, but I wouldn't use Rust even if I was familiar with Rust and I'm comfortable with it. I wouldn't use Rust for general software development because it's really going to slow you down, and I'll talk about those things probably in another video, D compared to Rust and which one is good for general software development. And here basically is the social proof. They talk about people using Rust, and they talk about npm, Cloudflare, and yeah, I think Yelp here. Yeah, Cloudflare here. So these websites basically have those things, right? And you have to see it. Companies using the and their testimonies, but you don't really see it because there's way too many things on the page. Right from here down here, there's too much noise on the page, so you might not really spot it. And I'll come back to this session later, but let's continue. And if you want to get involved, right, they show you read Rust is kind of like an ebook they provide. You can watch videos on Rust if you want to contribute. Like I said, Rust website is more human centric, and really there's not a lot. They only focus on the key most important things, and the rest, you kind of have to go to other pages to see them, right? So let's look at the D website. On the D website, they talk about so many things like news happening in the community, learn the community side of things, and there are way too many things here, right? Or 1 2 3 4 5 6, about 8, right? Yeah, so there are way too many things. Basically these are things that you want to compress down into, say, 4, something simple, easy to understand, like you find uh, on the Rust website, something like this, right? Basically 3 key things they want you to key takeaways, right? So it's either you want to learn how to use Rust, they refer you to the book, right? A free book. And by the way, D also has a free book, right? Programming in D, but they don't really highlight it that much unless you go to the resources, and then and they talk about videos, YouTube videos, and D also has conference videos, right? But you basically don't see them here. And D has a YouTube channel, whereas with Rust, I'm getting redirected to a YouTube channel, and I guess you are going to find a lot of Rust videos there. Contributors, see sponsors, that kind of community things. Visible, community participation things also there. Well, yeah, they also have a community, right? But basically you don't see, but unless you go to the forum, which is quite the best, if you ask me. This forum is actually the best place to really interact with community members, aside IRC, right? IRC channel is there, freenode.net. You can find the IRC channel there, and and I heard some people are on Discord. Yeah, but it's the first place is the forum, and the second is the IRC. Come on, this is hard to say, channel. So I would say these are too many things. You want to compress it down into few things as much as possible, and that's pretty much it, right? So let's see how to get started on the Rust website. Once you at the very top, if you click on getting started, right, they take you to this page. A quick setup of Rust development environment. They take you to install. It's more like step by step, right? You install it. By the way, they don't provide binaries. They provide a shell script. That will basically do everything for you. D has that, but they also provide download. So I'm not sure why Rust went to that approach. I guess some people don't really like the installer thing of it. Rust app, latest version of Rust. I think it's a tool to update Rust. Yeah, and the cargo is more like their package manager or build tool. Yeah, so they talk about those 3 things: install, get up to date, and then the package manager. And then they talk about other tools, development tools. They talk about 8 of them here: VS Code, Sublime, Atom. So on the D website, I think they have a page for IDs, and basically when you go there, you find so many options, right? Most of them are dead projects, like this one. It's a last known activity 2017, so I'm not sure why it's still there, and most of these IDEs are not really any good, beyond basic stuff. So the solid ones, really, what I would recommend is Visual Studio Code if you are Windows Linux guy, or Visual D, which is for Visual Studio, plugin or Visual D, and I guess a lot of people like Vim. Here they don't even talk about Vim, but I know a lot of the users have either use Vim or Emacs. The rest, really, yeah, they are good effort, but they are not really there yet. So I will say all these needs to go out, or at least prioritize the very good ones, and the rest, come down. And I heard, yeah, Intel they also has some plugin development, which is for JetBrains IDE. So probably Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and JetBrains, IntelliJ IDE, and the rest probably should come down or considered experimental or something like that. If you don't want to put it along with these ones. So if it is no more active, I don't know why it is still there, really. And the page on which you come to find, this is the D Wiki. If you ask me, I'll say it's not quite inviting. And design is everything, right? Yeah, so I think Rust does better on that side of things. And you realize it's more like me, more centered on the Rust, because I think the Rust website is very well done. It's clean, minimal, straightforward, and they don't really bog you down with so many technicalities and clever things about the programming language. There's not a lot of jargons, on the Rust website. And then yeah, basically they show you how to use Cargo, right? I think it's more like Rust has really standardized on the package manager, Cargo, whereas the D community, is quite divided. That package manager is kind of official, but by the way, what that means is the package manager for D. And when you go to code.dlang.org, you find packages available for D. And yeah, so code.dlang.org, that's where you find D packages. There's a lot of packages here, right? And the tool you use to download those packages is called DAP. It's here, packages. So the Rust website, they put all of them under, I guess it's more about the getting started flow. They show you all of that, whereas on the D, when you click here, learn, I think that's more of the getting started kind of page. It takes you here, right? Welcome interactive tour. This is more like a tour, right? It's not like the Rust getting started page. But then let's look at this, what a new user is expected to go through. And again, they talk about the technique, all the features D has, and which all of them are true, right? D is quite featureful, but then if you are getting started, none of these things really make sense, right? So and they talk about how many more of them. And I think resources, documentation, they talk about some of these things, feature overview here. So I'm not sure why it is still slapped on your face when you are getting started to use it. I mean, I just got here, right? Spare me all of that technicality. I want to see how D looks like and how I can start using it. So when you click next, I think you set your language and then you continue to install the D. So here's the step: install the run. I think the getting started tool is for D is really good, in terms of content wise, but then there's way too many unnecessary things, and the font is quite small, so there are too many things to read. I don't think that is good design. And the UI could really use a lot of improvement. I guess you could say the Rust website is more modern, whereas the D website feels a little bit kind of dated. So that is my observation. Again, I am a designer, so I tend to see some of these things. and yeah, getting started. Yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about. And then there is uh the learn. Yeah, I think Rust also has a learn here, which is quite different from the getting started. Let me look at it. Yeah, learn, getting started with Rust. Read a book. They talk about a course. Check by examples. More grow with Rust, the standard library, and yeah, they talk about cargo. They even have an ebook, Rust documentation, Rust C, the Rust compiler, and everything. You see how minimal on the whole page is, right? Really, it's not about having way too many content that get someone to really like it, because at the end of the day, they are really not going to see most of these things, right? They are just going to skip over them. So it's better to keep them straightforward and simple. Yeah. And when you look at the DEO, right, when you go through all this information, it's not like it's unnecessary. They talk about so many things, but it's way too many things for you to even notice all of them. uh Say news, they talk about the blog, um summer of code, I think it's Google summer. Yeah. And the land, they talk about the 4 major features. I'm not sure why they are so critical about the features. Features. But then usually is the onboarding experience that really matter. uh yeah, programming indeed, that's Ali's book, a very nice book. I recommend if you want to try D, right? And the reason why I'm looking at the website is, when you look at D and Rust, basically you want to use D as a language that is adaptable for every sort of programming task, right? You can do low level, high level. Uh, the Rust syntax, I don't think is only appealing to a subset of people, because yeah, I'm not sure why you go for a let me look at the Rust code. Rust code is kind of, oh, I can't find, yeah. So yeah, the syntax really, there's way too many noise. I guess mute everywhere, because Rust is immutable by default. But then the syntax, I don't really see. Yeah, I'm not talking about syntax here. So, but yeah, but D is a more sane language compared to Rust. But then the onboarding experience of D is what really doesn't help. There are way too many things on the page. The font is too small, and you want to really highlight the key, most important things. And there's too much focus on the technicality of it, instead of making it more human centric. Like, if a new person, someone new to D, new to meta programming, new to low level programming, you see a lot of low level things here, right? How will they feel, going through the D website? That is where you want to look at it from. And because an experienced programmer really most likely have dealt with worse experience elsewhere, so they are more comfortable with jumping straight right away into the coding. So you really want to make this experience super polished for new users, which is why I think in terms of the onboarding experience, Rust is really good at that. Yeah, so that sums it up.